Rick, the official recording is on. You have two topics that I understand came up during your podcast that you feel we might be interested. Christina seconded your idea that we might be interested and might be useful. So anything Christina says, I'm with. So friend, educate us. You guys want to pay attention now. If you haven't been paying attention up to this point, this will be important and educational. Go ahead, Rick.
So before Christina, we get too far into it, does anybody know what SB91 is? Senate Bill 91. It's a statewide California Senate bill. And you'll now see it on your screen. It is the eviction moratorium. By show of hands, how many people have heard of the California eviction moratorium? I hope all of you are aware of it. Now, what is the California SB 91 and how does it affect you? And so this bill, like many other bills, are pretty lengthy, but I took out 3 key points that I want you to remember, okay? The first thing I want to tell you is that this Senate Bill, Senate Bill 91, the California eviction moratorium, pauses evictions for tenants who declare an inability to pay all or part of the rent due to a COVID-related reason. Now, you think about it, that's a pretty broad definition, isn't it? Anyone who declares that they're not able to pay all or a part because they've been impacted by COVID, that it would then pause their eviction. And this law has been in place now for 1 year and was extended recently to the end of this month, June 30th, 2021. And that broad provision has provided some options for tenants that have not been able to pay their rent to delay or pause the eviction. And so many courts have not been opened or have had limited services as a result of COVID. And so you should know that we're seeing this bill come to an end. It expires on June 30th, 2021. What else should you know? Embedded in this bill is a pathway of $2.6 billion in federal stimulus funding for landlords. So when landlords have experienced tenants that have not been able to pay their rent, there is some financial relief available for your landlords. Now, why am I telling you all of this? Go ahead and go to the next slide, Christina. Well, we're uncertain on how this is going to impact the market. Well, what do you mean you're uncertain? Well, if we think about a homeowner who misses a mortgage payment, not rent, but a mortgage, a document after 3 months called a notice of default is filed with the county recorder. A couple of months later, another document is filed with the county recorder called a notice of sale. And then after the notice of sale, there's a trustee sale at the courthouse steps. But how do we know how many tenants are behind on their rent? How do we know? Most properties that are owned, landlord properties, are not large commercial enterprises. They're mom and pops. They used to live there. They decided not to sell, but to rent it for various reasons. And so we're not certain how this is going to impact the market because we really can't get a pulse on how many people have utilized Senate Bill 91. And this is going to expire in June, the end of this month. You should also know that I don't know the eviction volume because the courts have been closed. Courts have not been doing unlawful detainers, evictions, or sheriff's writs. And so those have been limited or reduced, or in some courts eliminated altogether. And so because of that, we don't know if there'll be a sizable increase or an uptick of eviction volume in the future. What else don't we know? We don't know if this will be extended. Certainly the impacts of COVID financially aren't just going to disappear. This has already been extended once. It was supposed to expire after a year of being enacted. It's been extended till the end of this month, and I don't know if it'll be extended. So I don't know how this is going to impact the market, but I will tell you that in all things, I look for the opportunities for our team. And I think this is a great time for you to reach out to landlords and educate them on what's going on with Senate Bill 91. And I think you're going to find that for landlords, it is now when this expires, one of the best times for them to sell their property than they've ever experienced. Let me give you 5 simple reasons why I think it is a prime time for landlords to sell their home. Number one is I think there's pent-up demand. I think landlords wanted to sell. Maybe their tenants weren't paying rent. They couldn't go through the eviction process. They didn't want to give notice in fear that the tenant wouldn't pay rent. So there's a pent-up demand for landlords to put their home up for sale because they haven't wanted to do that for about the last 13, 14 months as a result of Senate Bill 91. So we think that there's a pent-up demand of landlords that are ready to put their home up for sale. Number two, in today's market, a landlord has to make minimal repairs. And when a property is often tenant occupied, it needs more repairs than when it's owner occupied. And so a landlord that knows that in today's real estate market, minimal repairs will be required to sell the home can be a great incentive for them to put their home on the market. Number three, it's going to sell quick, isn't it? Because most homes today in our community are selling within 2 weeks. We're finding a buyer within 2 weeks. What a great opportunity. You say, well, Rick, why is that important for a landlord? Well, because a landlord is paying property taxes, insurance, and now has a vacant property. They're not living in it. And so it's an opportunity to sell it quickly. Number four, it's a great time for the landlord to sell when this Senate bill expires because the 1031 exchange is under attack. Most recent legislation that is proposed with future stimulus bills limits the cap on the 1031 exchange. So it reduces the amount of money that somebody can do in exchange. And if that passes, we may see some sizable changes to the 1031 exchange. And finally, the ability to sell that property and purchase another rental property is a very good opportunity for a landlord today because rental properties are still in demand. If you think there hasn't been enough inventory for sale, check the inventory for lease. There's even less available properties for lease. And so an investor that says, I'm ready to sell one property and move it into a community, often where I call having less of a hassle factor, and they can get a higher rent, and there's very little rental inventory to fit the needs of the market, especially as the majority of Californians are losing traction on the ability to buy a home. This can absolutely be a great time for a landlord to consider selling their property. So reach out to landlords. Make sure they understand the Senate Bill 91. I've given you the 3 talking points that you ought to know that came right out of the bill. Talk to them about some of the opportunities that exist uniquely in today's market for them to sell their property, specifically after Senate Bill 91 expires, which is expected to happen at the end of this month. And those are opportunities for you to help list properties and help add new inventory to a much needed inventory to the market. All right. So if you have any questions on that or any comments or observations, feel free to put that into the chat box. I want to make sure that you're up to speed on what's happening in the state of California. Let's go to the next topic that I have for you. The next topic I have for you is, will we have a typical summer real estate market this year? And I'd love to hear in the chat box, do you think that our real estate market is going to follow the typical seasonal ebbs and flows of real estate? What are your thoughts? I'm watching the chat box. I see some people say no way. I see some people say yes. What else do you got? It's a super hot market. Some people said possibly. Okay. So let's kind of look at what a typical real estate market looks like. You know that it's cyclical in nature. Christine, let's go to the next slide. So a typical seasonal changes in real estate, and we're talking about sales, not price. We're talking about the number of sales. We typically see the highest sales volume occur throughout May through September. Have you ever been asked, is now a good time to sell the home? I've heard that it's better to sell in the summertime, or I've heard it's better to sell in the fall. What they're referencing is the typical seasonal changes associated with real estate. And typically, these seasonal changes have lower sales volume November through January. That's pretty common that November, around Thanksgiving, we begin to see the market, we see less sales volume, less sales occur, certainly into December and even January. Here's our take. We believe that these typical seasonal changes in real estate are going to take a back seat to what's happening in this unprecedented market. So what's happening in today's market that you ought to be aware of that's going to be in the driver's seat for the real estate market this year? Let's go to the next slide, Christina. So here, the number one thing that you need to know is that we are having a record-breaking market. And these factors are moving into the driver's seat, kicking out the seasonal changes to the back seat. And some of the things you ought to be aware of is that we are expecting an unprecedented, record-breaking number of sales to occur. The number of sales. This is from the California Association of Realtors. They anticipate the sales will increase by 11%, or 458,000 homes to be sold in the state of California by the end of the year. The F in 2021 stands for forecast. So they're expecting this to be the record number that we have certainly in the last 6 years, but 458,000. There has not been a year in recent history that has had that number of sales occur. Let's go to our next slide, Christina. We're talking about record high sales volume. Yep, I mentioned that. Let's go to the next one. We're also talking about record low interest rates. Supreme Lending every week gives us an update on what's happening in the interest rate. According to the Association of Realtors, we finished 2020 at 3.1%. Well, where is it going? We are expecting in 2021, the forecast is that interest rates would end at 3%. Notice 2015, 3.9% on the 30-year fix. 2016, 3.6. 2017, 4%. 4.5% in 2018. 2019, 3.9. 2020, we dropped to 3.1. In 2021, their forecast by the Association of Realtors is that interest rates will end the year at 3%. So we've seen now record high sales forecasted, record low interest rates forecasted. Let's go to the next one. What other records are breaking in today's market? There is record low inventory. Now, I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. We just walked through what's happened in our individual market, but I wanted you to take a look at this slide. The blue line represents homes built in millions, and the gray, or the people, represents the population growth in millions. Look at what's happened in 2000, the 2000s. That decade, we outpaced growth of population by housing quite significantly. Now look at the 2010s, 2010, 2011, 2012. We built only 6 million homes in this decade and grew in population across the United States. This is a national statistic, by 27 million, okay? We simply do not have enough homes being built to meet the demand. So that's causing record low inventory that we just haven't had enough homes being built. In addition, those homes that are being built, the cost of labor is at a new high. The cost of contractors, the cost of skilled journeyman workers, for foremans, the costs associated with permits at your local city or your county or municipality. These costs associated with real estate building is at a record high. Yet another record that's being broken in today's market. Let's go to the next slide, Christina. Some of you saw this slide from earlier today, and Christina shared this and branded it and shared this for you. So what other records are being broken? Well, we have record high material costs, don't we? Let's look at the cost of lumber alone. Currently, we have seen lumber increase by 377%. In May of 2023, it was $343. It is now $1,635. Let's take a look at this and put it into practical application. 1 year ago, and this is by the US Census Bureau, so we're talking a national statistic. 1 year ago, $50,000 could buy a little more than 10 houses worth of lumber. Today, the same $50,000 would buy you a little more than 2 houses worth of lumber. Now, lumber is only a small microcosm of what's existing when it comes to building a home. Certainly, there's a lot more that goes into it. Concrete's going up. Appliances have gone up. Windows, doors, roofing material. All of these costs are breaking new records. We've never seen prices associated with these have increased at this unprecedented level. And so we're seeing record high material costs. Let's go to the next slide, Christina. Finally, we're seeing record home price appreciation. This was an article written in Yahoo Finance, which was also on the very front page of USA Today. It says that home prices rose by more than 50% in these markets since 2017. Boise, Spokane, Clearfield, Utah, Port Court, Lucille, Florida, Rocky Mountain, North Carolina, on and on and on. By the way, Stockton's on this list and Lodi is in the top 10. Did you know that? Our market. So we are seeing unprecedented record-breaking appreciation occur in our real estate market. We are currently working on a future team meeting to have many of those that represent these cities come join us and talk about what's happening in their market and help you make a personal connection with somebody on what we call Rick's Pros list so that you can refer them with confidence, comfortability. Places like Boise, Idaho, or Boise City, Idaho are just exploding with home value growth. We're anticipating that to occur very, very quickly. Let's go to my final slide, Christina. And Christina, go ahead and unmute and tell us what you put together for our team.
Well, I think all of this information is so valuable and everyone's asking why a price is so high. Is there any inventory? How do I house? There's a lot of conversation out there. And Rick always says to show and share. Did I quote you right?
You got it this time.
Sweet. So this is how you can show and share. These are the graphs that we had today. And so when someone asks you, how's the market? I'm going to brand the market update that we had today. And then this is going to be a companion piece. So when you go and you meet your clients, you can show them everything that's going on and you can be the expert. So after the meeting today, I'm going to put this on our Facebook team page and you can share it with your SOI on social media and you can meet with your clients in person and have this resource as one of your assets to get them into contract.
Thank you, Christina. Appreciate you putting that together. Go ahead and screen share if you would, please. Take me off a screen share. So let me kind of speak to you from the heart for just a moment. You and I are living through unprecedented times. This has never occurred before. Not in your lifetime, not in my lifetime, I would argue not in your parents' or grandparents' lifetime that we have seen these records being shattered on all the things that we just went through. So how do you respond to that? I'm convinced that we can't control whether it rains. We control whether we bring an umbrella, right? We can't control what always happens to us, but we can always control our attitude in response to it. And yesterday I had a really cool phone call and it was so encouraging to me. And about 10 years ago, I had purchased a property personally in a community. It was a community outside of California. And I had purchased this property. It was an investment home. And somebody had noticed that I had done this, and they said, I want to do the same. And they drove to this community. It's about 14 hours away. They found this perfect home and they bought it. This community was a great investment for us, but it wasn't always a great investment. There were challenges. He immediately got a bad tenant 10 years ago. Called me, Rick, I got a bad tenant. I'm trying to manage this tenant. They're not paying rent. They're damaging the property. What do I do? I shouldn't have even bought the home. And I told him, hey, stay the course. Don't give up. Not owning real estate is hazardous to your wealth. He says, okay, Rick, I get it. I'll hang in there. He then calls me a couple years later and he says, Rick, I need to refinance, but the interest rates at that time were too high and he couldn't get a good rate. And he ended up going with an adjustable rate mortgage. And I said, dude, hang in there. Don't give up this home. And then the property didn't appreciate at all. And so several years went by and he's like, why am I managing this home? Why am I adding money every single month to this property? And I told him, hang in there. It's worth it. Non-owning real estate will be hazardous to your wealth. Yesterday, I got a call out of the blue. He says, Rick, I've been talking to you about this home for 10 years. It's right outside of the #1 market listed USA Today, right outside of Boise, Idaho. He said, Rick, it has gone up in value at an unprecedented level. In the meantime, I've paid down my mortgage significantly. My family and I are moving to this home. I wanted to sell it a dozen times over the course of the last 10 years. You talked me out of it. I'm so glad you did. I have equity and we have a home to move to for our family. And I just want to call you and say thank you. Like that call, it was so encouraging and motivational for me. Because I did just tell him and tried to do what I'd want done for me, because I own the same property in that community. Why am I telling you this story? And I want you to pay very close attention to what I'm going to tell you. You're going to get these calls. You're going to get these calls in 5 years from now. You're going to get these calls in 7 years from now. And you're going to get these calls in 10 years from now. You are going to get the call that said, hey, I remember when you were showing me properties and we wrote offer after offer after offer and we were so frustrated, we wanted to give up. You're going to get the call. Thank you so much. You're going to get the call when an owner says, man, I thought I was going to sell my investment property and you helped me 1031 exchange. And now maybe the 1031 exchange doesn't exist. Thank you. You're going to get that call. And I think that some of the most rewarding things that we do, people don't often view them in the moment of being rewarding or successful. And years later, a decade later, this person's call made a tremendous difference to me. I'm convinced today's market, with the rapid appreciation, with the low interest rates, with an incredible opportunity to both buy and sell real estate, you are going to create those moments that many, many years later, they're going to call you and say, thank you. Thanks for staying the course. Thanks for putting up with me when I was frustrated. And let me close with this thought. Not owning real estate in the future will be very, very hazardous to your wealth. Values are rising at such a pace, it will squeeze out the middle class in America. The middle class is disappearing because those who own real estate will accumulate massive equity, massive wealth, massive gain. Do you see this? And those that don't own real estate will have a hard time getting in. Hence, California's affordability index is at 25% right now. Only 1 in 4 people can afford to buy a home. You and I have the privilege of helping people make that decision to own real estate. That's our job. That's what we get the privilege of doing. And that changes the trajectory of their lives and changes the trajectory of their family tree. And you and I get an opportunity to do it. And we get an opportunity to do it in such a way where they have the kind of buying and selling experience that they're excited to tell a friend about. So be encouraged today. Not owning real estate will become very hazardous to your wealth. We are in the greatest wealth building time of our lifetime. Trillions of dollars of equity will be accumulated over the next several months. And you and I will have our fingerprints on that to get that call years and years later. Thank you. Brian, back to you.
Thanks, Rick. That's what was encouraging to me about Derek's story about the client he just closed on. That persistence right there, it'll make up a lot of the doubt that she had just in months based on our current market. So that was good stuff. And thank you, Morales. You are truly a team player. And I'm telling you guys all, if you don't realize the product that she helps put out so that we can post and look professional when we post, it's pretty spectacular. Now, shame on you if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, and that's posting you know, 2 separate real estate related posts on your social media. So if you need help on how you actually post it, Lorenzo Gala is an expert in doing that and can help you on both platforms. And the truth is, if he can't help you on one of the platforms, Daniela would be happy to take your call because she kills social media. If you all think that it's Shelby killing social media, I'm just going to tell you right now, it's Daniela killing social media for Shelby and herself. So those guys will help you if you have a hard time. And I'm sure once you've done it once or twice, you'll be able to do it. So friends, we come to the end of our meeting this week. Because of the time, we are going to hang around for 5 minutes. That's 5 minutes for anybody who wants to ask any questions. And you've been given the gift of time. You do not even have to rush to the bathroom or the refrigerator. You are literally going to be able to leisurely post before your next meeting. Have a great week, you guys. We'll see you.